Welcome back again to Rinka's Kitchen. I have another family favorite recipe that I'd like to share with you. It's called Hungarian potato dumplings, Bucinudli. What you will need for this recipe is 12 small white or 8 medium white potatoes, 3 whole eggs, 3 cups of flour, 8 liters of water, 2 tablespoons of margarine, 3 teaspoons of salt. And when I have cooked up the dumplings, I'm going to show you how to prepare different toppings for this great recipe. So what I did was that first of all I added 2 liters of water and 1 teaspoon of salt to a large pot. I peeled and washed and cut up potatoes into medium pieces, and then I cooked them in the water. So it's really important that you use white potatoes for this recipe. If you use russet or yellow potatoes or red potatoes, your dough will either become very watery or sticky or too rubbery. So make sure that you get white potatoes for this recipe. Then when the potatoes are cooked, what I did was I drained off the water, and then I put them in a large mixing bowl and I mashed them. So I'm just going to show you what the potatoes look like. And they're already mashed. Try to get out all the sort of like the lumps out of the potatoes, so it should be nice and smooth. I'm using a handheld potato masher today. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my eggs. So there's 3 whole eggs. And I'm going to add salt, so 1 teaspoon of salt, and I'm using sea salt today. And then I'm going to add my margarine to it. And this is a recipe for the dough. So what I do is I begin by mixing it together, mixing these ingredients together into the mashed potatoes, and then I'm going to be gradually adding my 3 cups of flour to it, and I'm going to be kneading it together by hand. I'm just going to mix this together first, the margarine and the salt and the eggs. And then I'm going to gradually add the flour to it. So what I do is I use a wooden spoon to begin with to mix the flour in there, and then I'm just going to eventually put my hand in there, and I'm going to knead it together to make a dough, and it's going to have a sticky-like consistency to it. I'm just going to do that by hand first, and then I'm going to start kneading it together by hand. And you want to be careful not to over-knead this recipe, because it will get rubbery. So you're just going to knead the flour together into the potato, and you're going to keep doing that until you have a dough-like consistency to it. Now if you need more flour to add to it, then you add more to it. And I've only got 1 cup there so far, so I'm going to continue to add 2 more cups to it. So you need 3 cups. So I've got 1 cup in there, and I'm just going to continue to knead the dough together. So there's about 3 cups of flour in there. until it goes together. And it's easy to work with. So I'm going to continue doing this, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how to make the actual noodles on a floured pastry board. Welcome back again to Rinka's Kitchen. I was preparing the dough for the Hungarian potato dumplings, Bucinudli, and what I'd like to do is show you what the dough should look like. And what I've done is I've pre-rolled the dough into small tennis ball sizes so that I prepare them for ready to make the actual dumplings. So this is what the dough should look like. The consistency is kind of cold. It is a bit sticky, but it shouldn't stick to your hands. But it does have a little bit of a sticky consistency to it. And I've rolled them into tennis ball sizes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over the pastry board over here to the camera, and I'm going to show you, I've already pre-rolled some of them, and I'm going to show you how to roll them. So this is the thickness that they should be, about 1/2 centimeter in thickness. And I'm going to take another tennis ball size one, and I'm going to pre-roll it. Now I got a bowl of flour here, and I'm going to dip both my hands into the dough, into the flour, so that the dough doesn't stick to my hands. So I'm just going to start from the center, and I'm going to continue rolling it until it gets to be about 1/2 centimeter in thickness. So I've pre-rolled out some sort of coils. And my grandmother would make this recipe for her family. My mother would also make this recipe for her family. And there's different types of toppings that you can put onto them, and I'm going to be showing you how to prepare those too. So we're going to cook up the dumplings first, and then I'm going to show you the different types of toppings that you can prepare for this recipe. Favorites of my family and myself. So I'm going to continue rolling that until I get a coil. And I'm just going to put that here, and then I'm just going to show you what I do with, what I do is I take a knife and I cut the noodles into 5 centimeter pieces, approximately. And I've got a bowl here ready to put all this stuff in there. So I'm just going to cut them up like that, about 5 centimeters in length, ready for the water. I've already got some water up with some 2 teaspoons of salt, and it's bringing the water to a rolling boil. And have as many of these ready as possible. So that's why I've kind of pre-rolled the dough. Got all of those tennis ball shapes ready for the water. And I've got a bowl here, and I'm just putting them into this. If you can just getting them ready for the water, and I'll have a few of them cut up. So you're going to cut them into about 5 centimeter lengths, approximately. And then what you do is you put them into the water. And I've got some boiling water here on the stove, and I'm going to add them to the water. Now I've got sort of a something like that to lift them into the boiling water, because you don't want to be getting the boiling water splashing on you, so it's kind of a safety kind of tip. So what I'll do is I'll put some of the dumplings onto the spoon, and I'll lift them into the boiling water, and it just places them in there nicely. You know, you could throw them in there all at once, but you'll get them all sticking together. It takes a little bit longer, but it's I think it just gives it a better result. I'm just going to add those to the boiling water, and I've got it right on maximum, like the heat, and I'm going to cook those until they come up to the top, rise up to the top, and you cook them for an additional about 5 minutes, but then you take some out and you double check to make sure that they're cooked thoroughly. It shouldn't take that long to cook. And I'll just place a few on there, and I'm going to continue rolling out a bunch of those tennis ball shaped dough kind of mounds, and I'm going to roll them out and cut them up and get them ready for the water. Now I have a Pyrex dish, and I'm going to be preheating the oven to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and as they are ready, when they're cooked, I'm going to strain them off with a colander, and I'm just going to show you what I do. So I've got a colander ready here, and it's got a bowl underneath it, and then I've got a soup ladle, and I'm going to scoop out the ones that are at the top. They've been cooking for about 5 minutes. I'm going to test to see and make sure that they're cooked thoroughly. And we'll let the water drain off of them, and then I'm going to place them into a heat-resistant dish similar to this. And I'm going to have the oven preheated to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to keep these warm. And meanwhile, I'm going to be preparing all the toppings for it. Like there's the breadcrumb topping that's actually mixed into the dumplings, and then there's the onion and paprika and shortening that you put up right on the top of the dumplings. That's my dad's ultimate favorite. I think a lot of people like that one too, to put the onions and the paprika on the top of the dumplings. So what I'll do is I'm going to come back, and I'm going to show you what the dumplings look like when they're cooked. So I'm just going to continue making up these dumplings and putting them and placing them in the water. So I will be back to show you what this great recipe looks like, and then I'm going to be talking about the toppings. Welcome back again to Arinka's Kitchen. I cooked some dumplings in some boiling water, and I used 6 liters of water in a stock pot, large stock pot. And then what I did was I took some breadcrumbs, about 300 grams of it, and added 2 tablespoons of margarine and butter, and I browned down the breadcrumbs, the ground bread cubes, and then I added it to the dumplings. Now the dumplings that were ready, I left in the oven at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and then what I did was I put some of the browned down bread cubes, ground bread cubes, and this is what these look like. This is called Bucinudli, potato dumplings, and this is one of the toppings that I mentioned that you could use to mix up with the, to put on the dumplings, and then you can add sugar to them. So as you're serving them on a plate, you can have a bowl of sugar, and people can add as much sugar as they want. My grandmother would use icing sugar. She'd put that out, and then you could sprinkle the powdered icing sugar on top of the dumplings, breaded dumplings, potato dumplings. So, and then I've got, this one is my father's ultimate favorite, and this one has fried onions with 2 tablespoons of vegetable shortening and paprika and a little bit of vegeta, a teaspoon of vegeta and paprika, sweet paprika, Hungarian paprika. And this can be put on top of the dumplings, potato dumplings. So there's other ways also to do this, and you can put cottage cheese and sour cream on top of it, and you can add sugar to it. So there's different toppings that you can put on the potato dumplings. So this is what this great recipe looks like. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be serving my husband some of this, and I'm going to be taking over the dumplings over to my parents. I'm going to be surprising them for dinner. They're going to be having this, and I'm sure my mom and dad will be very pleased with this recipe. So it is a recipe passed down from my grandmother to my mother, so it's been around in our family for a long time, and I've always enjoyed it as a child, and I'm going to be making it probably not as often, because I was saying to my husband that it is a lot of work with it. So yeah, I will probably cook it up maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and then of course I'd be bringing over some to my mom and dad for supper also. So if you have any questions or comments regarding this recipe, please feel free to contact me at irene@irinkaskitchen.com or irinkaskitchen.com. Until next time, bon appetit, jó étvágyat!